keep trying to take it one day at a time, not only in football, one day at a time, just like moving to Atlanta, getting into our house, getting settled. There's just so much change right now that we just got to take it one day at a time and believe that by Labor Day weekend we'll be ready to go and feeling really good. So love the group, love so much about the dynamic here, and makes it fun to come to work. So take any questions you have.
Yeah, Kirk. Where is your rehab at? As you're able to do more and more, it looks like you're adding on. So.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was told you'd always have the first question, so you're consistent. I like consistency. That's good. It's coming along really well. Been able to today I felt the best I felt. Just that is also one day at a time, and Falcons training staff's doing a great job with me on a daily basis with the rehab, and I think everything's trending in the right direction. And I wasn't sure when I stood here in March and I had just gotten here how much I'd be able to do at practice, but today I felt like I was able to do everything I would have normally done, and that's big for that stuff I talked about initially, building continuity, getting shared history together. So that's a huge help, and excited to see how fast we can heal from here.
And also, this was the first time we heard about your reaction to the drafting of Michael. How have you squared that from the draft day call to now we all met and are working together?
Yeah, no, Mike's been great. It's always going to be competition in this league, and you always got to go out and earn it. And I'm going to control what I can control, and also understand there's a lot you don't control. And I learned a long time ago that you got to focus on what you can control.
And speaking of that, tampering review of that alleged tampering review. Where is that at? You have to give your phone up. How that works logistically.
Yeah. They're the league's still kind of going through that, so I'll let them do it. But there's not a whole lot there.
Hey, Kirk, transparency and communication are essential. When the Falcons were courting you, if they would have told you then that they were going to take a pick quarterback at 8, would you have signed?
I don't really deal in hypotheticals. We could go down that path for a long time in a lot of ways. It just doesn't do us any good. So, I'm excited for this opportunity to have. I think it's a real privilege to be a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm trying to make good on the opportunity they've given me with the way I work each day and the way we play this fall.
What's your leadership style when it comes to Michael then? Is it lead by example, or are you trying to build a rapport with him directly?
Well, I don't think it has to be either or, right? I mean, I think it's going to be it all, right? You got to build relationships. You make deposits in people. You serve. You ask questions. I think there's a place for the quarterback room is a working force for one another, and that's never not been the case. So we're all in there as a working force together to help each other, and that dynamic has always been there and always will be there.
Kirk, how's it been getting in the room with Zach and kind of putting together this offense? Where do you feel like you're at now?
Yeah, we're getting there. I don't think by any means that I'm, feel like I'm in year 5 in a system. There's times where he calls the play and I'm thinking, all right, I got most of those words, but give it to me one more time, and that's where you feel like you're a rookie again when you're new. But there's also a lot of things where you say, great. I had concerns that maybe I would be starting over, but I can spit that play out, no problem. I know that read, been there, done that. So there's a little bit of both sides of it, and that's why the time on task together is so helpful. But I think Zach has a great football mind. I think he's a hard worker, and I think he's got a great way about him. The guys will respond to him, and so we're checking a lot of boxes from that standpoint, and it's about us as players. I keep saying kind of the same thing, is we've got to put the work in to build that shared history so that we can play in such a way this fall that it looks like we've been together for 5 years,
Hey, Kirk, 2 things for me on the tampering situation. How aware were you of all of the different details and the rules, and as you were going through that process, did you check off on certain things?
The league's kind of still working their way through it, so I'll let that play its course before I say anything out of turn. But if I said anything at the press conference, it's because it was so innocent. The innocence is why so that's that.
As far as Michael, just to kind of follow up on her question about leadership, as a veteran guy, do you feel like there is a responsibility to kind of help the younger guy absorb the system and learn, and how do you approach that?
I think it's so important that the quarterback room is just working together to help one another succeed, and that's the way it's always been. That's the way it always needs to be, no matter what the names are in the room. We need to all be working together to help one another be the best we can be.
Is there any extra pressure just by the dynamic of, the situation with the first round pick and what people may want to read into that in terms of competition?
I think competition is always a part of how this league works, how football works. You were a Michigan Stater, and my journey at Michigan State was the day I signed. 2 weeks later, Nick Foles committed, and we were in the same class, right? Nick Foles becomes a Super Bowl MVP, and we looked at each other like, hey, one guy's probably going to play here and one guy isn't. And it doesn't mean they're not both great quarterbacks, but there's spots. So that you learn pretty quickly as a freshman in college, you got to compete, and that's the way it's kind of always been and always will be. So it's more of a, this is consistent with my football journey as opposed to an exception.
You say you feel great. What's the mental hurdle, or is there one?
Oh, yeah.
Where you push off. There's something you get over, like, all right, I'm good, I can keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're doing great. We're progressing well. Today was a step better than yesterday was physically, so that was encouraging. But I'm watching the tape saying, all right, how much am I using my lower half? How much am I using my back leg to really drive the football? And there's still more to go get, but I also feel that I can play pretty well today. But as a competitor, there's more to go get.
Does it surprise you how fast you've come?
Well, we're 6.5 months, and they told me 9. And so, but as a competitor, the minute they told me 9, you're like, all right, so 7. It's kind of what you say. And so there's a little bit of that going on where I'm not happy if I'm not further along. But I also had a teammate, Cam Akers, who tore his Achilles and was back in 5 months as a running back. So he kind of set a bar where I was like, so somewhere between 5 and 9 is kind of my goal, and we're at 6.5 right now, and I'm practicing. So I'm pleased, but there's more to go get.
Totally different position, but have you picked Cam's brain on how to accelerate this process for you?
Yeah, we rehabbed together last season because he actually tore his here playing at Atlanta. So we were able to rehab. I was like 11 days ahead of him, so we were able to rehab together. But I've also learned that some guys are just built different, and they can rehab faster, get back faster, and Cam's one of those guys. So he really set the bar high, and that probably gave me a good edge too.
The early days with your new receivers, what are your impressions with them?
Yeah, just really excited about playing with them. They're great people. They're hard workers. Probably my favorite part of the job right now is watching film, playing catch with routes on air, having conversations, sending texts to guys like, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Mooney, Rondale, Bijan, Tyler, Carlos. I mean, the list goes on and on. I just am excited to be a point guard, and they're the shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, and I'm just distributing the football, getting the ball out of my hands and getting the ball into theirs. So that's probably my favorite part of the job right now is trying to help them get to where they want to go, but knowing that they're going to need a little bit of help to do that, and I can't wait to be a part of getting them where they want to go.
Jesse Bates has called you a coach, and today that you're a great teacher. Can you kind of touch on that dynamic and what that means to you, that guys look up to you in that light?
Yeah, I think being in year 13, there's probably a little bit of when I was in year 4 talking to a Deshaun Jackson who was a double-digit year vet, I'm not going to pull him aside and tell him how to do things, right? There's some self-awareness there. I think it's the inverse now. You're in year 13, and if there ever was a time to pull a guy aside and say, hey, I've seen this, I know how to do this. So I'm set up to be in that position a little bit, but I also think very highly of Jesse Bates as a football player, as a leader. I had just a couple meals with him here in the cafeteria, and I quickly realized that if this guy's the leader of our defense, one of our better players, higher paid players in the locker room, he is going to set a really good standard to young players for what it ought to look like in terms of how you conduct yourself, how you practice, how you prepare, how you play. We're in really good hands with him on defense. So that was exciting to realize, because I hadn't gotten to know him until getting here. Knew what he was as a player, but as a person, he's pretty impressive.
Can you take us back to the draft night and kind of where you were and how you found out and how you sort of processed the decision with Michael?
Yeah, no, it's pretty straightforward. I was at the team event at the stadium, was just driving back, and they called me and just said, hey, we're gonna take a quarterback here at the pick, and I said, okay, and that was pretty straightforward.
Like, when you say okay, like, were you? I'm sure you weren't doing cartwheels, but how did you respond to that?
Yeah, I think it's similar to the call that Mark D'Antonio made to me in 2000. That would have been 2007. When he said, hey, we're going to offer another quarterback. I know you've signed Nick Foles. You guys are going to have to compete. And it's like, okay, let's just take the next step. And then I was drafted right with Robert Griffin. And it's, hey, you're going there with another quarterback in the same class. Okay. So this is more the norm than the exception. And I think the response is that this is the exception, when really, if you know my story, this is more the norm of the journey, and it's more of let's just start working and start building together.
Randall's going to be getting breakfast for you on Saturdays in the fall and things like that. Do you have any?
I've never had a rookie do that, so I don't know why I'd start now. But I'm sure if I asked, he would be helpful and do that. But I've never had a rookie do that before.
Kirk, you mentioned the conversations you were having with guys like Kyle and
yeah.
Drake, all that kind of stuff. With them being relatively young, I mean, Kyle obviously been in the league for a little bit now, but without giving away like any company secrets, have they said anything to you like, oh, I didn't look at things this way, dealing with a veteran quarterback like yourself, you've been in the league for a long time?
They've been complimentary, but they also probably would have been no matter what. I think you want to go earn their respect. I talked to a couple veteran quarterbacks who are now retired who had changed teams later in their career, and I said, tell me about your dynamic, how you went in there. And one of the things they said was, you got to find that balance between leading and also understanding you haven't been here. So keep your mouth shut and observe and learn how things work. And so there's this balance, right, of I'm going to step in and assert myself, but I'm also going to ask questions and keep my mouth shut at times too. So, anyways, I just wanted to make sure that I'm not forcing anything that shouldn't be forced, and that goes back to self-awareness.
You talked a lot about a lot of news, new team, new players, new coaches, everything like
new house, new school,
a lot of
new fast food stops. We got it all.
How critical is guys settling in, even coming off the injury, just being able to be out here and getting gelled with that?
Yeah.
And how critical that's the success long term?
Yeah, so this is like home base, right? This is not new in the sense that when you run out there with cleats on and you're calling plays and breaking the huddle, you're like, okay, it's different people, it's different words, it's a different location, but this is what I know. So you feel at home right over here on the practice field. And I'm very excited. As I said, my favorite part of the day is getting to throw a bench route to Darnell Mooney, getting to watch Kyle Pitts on an out route, getting to throw a ball to Drake London down the sideline. That's my favorite part of the day, why I love coming to work. So the more we can do that, the better.
With Mike, watching him throw, watching him work, what stands out to you?
It's still so early. I feel like I've barely seen him at all, but obviously had a great college career, put a lot of good stuff on tape, and I'm sure he'll pick up the offense quickly and be an asset for our team.
Anything else?
Lastly, you mentioned it's early, but what excites you about this team?
Yeah, I think there's perception and there's reality, right? And I don't want perception to bleed into reality in the sense that people just assume things will happen. And so for me, it's about, I don't really deal in perception. I deal in reality. What's reality? And reality is we've got a long ways to go. There's not a lot of time on task together, and we got to make up for that quickly, and we have to have a sense of urgency about the way we practice, work, and communicate and meet. And so that's really what my reality is, and for my teammates. And we've got to get to roughly Labor Day and feel like we have the screws tied down. And we're not there yet, don't have to be there yet, but I feel a sense of urgency about that because I know what it is like to be in a place for 5 or 6 years and have played with a guy for 5 or 6 years and the difference that makes. And so we've got to work together to try to make that less relevant than otherwise would be.
I got one more
question.
Yeah,
anything for Jared.
I appreciate it. Schedule's coming out tomorrow.
Yes.
Vikings on the schedule.
Yeah, oh yeah. Washington too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So just all homecoming, all these places.
So those are a couple things you're looking towards. But this as a veteran guy, when that schedule comes out, what's your frame of mind? What are you looking for? What's your frame of mind?
First of all, I think it's incredible that the release of the schedule generates the kind of excitement. You know what I'm talking about. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, what a privilege to play in a sport where my high school friends are like refreshing their computer every second to try to see what the schedule is. I'm like, I think I'm in a good line of work if that's the demand for this sport. So kudos to the NFL on that. But we'll see. It's interesting, too, because we know who we're playing. So I also think it's funny that it doesn't change a whole lot for me whether I'm playing them in late September or mid-October or mid-November. It's okay, let's go play them. But, you know, to my wife, it's a big deal. You know, we're finding, you know, church times and babysitter times and travel and all that. So she's planning on taking the boys to all the away games this year, which I said good luck. But she wants to use it as like a educational experience. So she's going to take them everywhere, and she can't wait. She's a planner. She can't wait to get the schedule. So she keeps wondering if I got any inside details. I said, no, I got nothing. So you'll find out when everybody else finds out. So,
Thanks, man.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.